what's going on? We are not at Sylvania Airport. As you can tell, this is a nice grass strip behind me. I'm actually scouting for my first place to go airplane camping. We're only about a 15-minute flight away, but I figured the first time we go out camping with the airplane, I better go somewhere close, make sure I have all the right gear before I send it 4 or 5 hours to an airport where I don't have access to get back home easily. So I just landed here. It's a beautiful day. It's finally warming up for the summer, which is glorious. I'm waiting on my friend to give me the phone number of the guy who owns this airport, just to make sure that it is okay that I camp here. We're not actually camping today. This is just a scouting mission. Hopefully we can bring either Chelsea or Kepler or both along and have a nice night here. I'm thinking probably next Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not exactly sure what day works best, but I think this is going to be the spot. All right, I just got his number. Let's give this a shot.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
All right, well, we left him a message. Hopefully he gets back to us, but let me show you around this airport real quick and check out what our options look like. So I'm right here at the front of the airport. The main road is literally just right here. Also, the main airport building is this one right here. I don't necessarily want to camp right next to a road. It kind of defeats the purpose of getting out in nature. Obviously, this isn't super far out in nature. There is a nice fire pit right over here by the front. Which would be a nice spot to hang out and make a fire. It's going to be pretty warm next week, so I don't even know that it's necessary to build a fire. What I'm really thinking is it would be best to try to camp at the far end of the runway. There's no roads over there. This butts up to forest pretty much all the way around. So I'm thinking if we walk all the way down to the end of the runway over here, we might be able to find a cool spot tucked away in the trees. I absolutely love these grass airports. There's just a feeling here. It's unlike any other airport with paved runways where there's traffic coming in and out all day. They're usually pretty mellow. A handful of airplanes, a handful of people here. They just have a good vibe to them. They're probably my favorite airports to land at. There's a handful of grass strips within about a 30-mile radius of my home airport. And pretty much every time I go out and fly, those are the airports that I go to, rather than going to all the mainstream airports that you have to worry about traffic and students and jets. There's no jets landing here. It's about as close to being in the backcountry as you can get without having a backcountry airplane where you can go land off airport wherever you want, which is the dream one day. One day I want to own a Cub or something that we can fly out into the mountains and look down and find a spot to land and then just set up camp wherever we feel like it. But for now, the 150 is fully capable of landing on these really nice smooth grass strips, but anything more bumpy than this and it's not going to be able to handle. It has tiny little tires. So I just walked almost the entire length of the runway, and it doesn't really seem like I can tuck up into the woods anywhere. There's just kind of this wall of brush that goes all the way down the west side of the runway, which would be fine as long as I'm far enough away from the runway. Obviously this right here, it doesn't look like it, but that is the runway. And there's only about, I don't know, 40 feet from the edge of the runway to the brush there. And at night, that's not a big problem because there's no lights on this runway. Nobody's gonna be landing here at night, but just in case I set up a tent early or something, I don't want to create an obstruction for any other pilots trying to land here. Except for this one spot right here where there's a pine tree that kind of sticks out farther than everything else. And I could probably get a tent somewhere right in here without it hindering the shoulder. Well, all we can do now is just wait for a call back from the airport to make sure that it is okay that we camp here, and then hopefully come maybe Monday night or Tuesday night, we'll be down here with the dogs and the friends. Maybe I can convince a couple other pilots to fly down here and join us for the night, and we'll grill some food and hang out. But for now, we're gonna hop back in old Herbie here and jump back over to Sylvania.
traffic, Cessna 90 Tango, Backcountry, runway 36, Camp Lake.
I can't even tell you how nice it is to be flying with the vents open and the windows open. After being cold for so many months, this feels glorious. What a nice grass strip too. Seems like they do a really good job maintaining this.
Camp Lake traffic, Cessna 90 Tango, departing runway 36, Camp Lake.
Alright, here we go. I've been taking off from a grass strip since last summer. It feels good. Get that nose wheel off the ground, build up some airspeed. And we're off. We'll build up some speed here so we can pull up over these trees at the end of the runway. There we go. We are out of here.
If you're entering left downwind, we should be no factor. We'll just come back down 2000.
So a few weeks ago, I made a video about taking Kepler flying for the first time. And the whole point of that video was to see if he's comfortable enough to bring him camping. Before I took him farther than just around the pattern one time, I wanted to get him some headphones and build him a harness for the airplane. And I did that. This past week I built him an awesome dog harness system for the airplane, which I'm actually pretty proud of. It turned out really good. So right here I'm just going to show you the build process of making that harness for him, keeping him safe.
So to build Kepler his harness system, I have some spare parts laying around. This is just an Aviation seatbelt buckle, and I have a couple decommissioned seatbelts here that I need to harvest the friction adapters off. Plan is this part of the buckle is just going to be sewed onto Kepler's actual harness, and that will just be permanently mounted to the handle on the back of the dog harness. And then using some 1 3/4 webbing, I'm going to reverse engineer how this friction adapter works. And then instead of having these quick releases, I'm going to sew on the female end of this Aviation seatbelt. And then with this webbing, I'm just going to create a loop in it so that the seatbelt that's currently in my plane can just loop straight through this and buckle back to itself. And then the reason I need those friction adapters is so I can leave some extra slack in this part of the seatbelt and adjust how tight it is from here so that I can keep them as secure as possible. So the first thing I need to do here is get rid of this section of the old webbing, so I can just cut this off. And now that's just going to clean up the part that I need to re-engineer here. So all of this webbing is one piece. So looping from this part of the buckle all the way through this quick release and then all the way back to the friction adapter is sewn in with one piece. Now I just need to cut all the webbing off this one. I can use this one as a template. I'm going to keep this one whole so that I have something to reference. The plan is also to shorten this probably by about half, but it's about that long. I don't need all that extra space, and there's not too much space in the airplane. So I want to have as much room to adjust the seatbelt down here as possible. And so by shortening this, it'll just create much more space so I can tighten down Kepler to the seatbelts in my airplane. I'm just going to get all the components where they need to be and use some hot glue just to hold them down for now, just so I can get everything put together before I stitch anything to make sure I did this all correctly. But first thing that's got to go on is just this little metal piece here, and this is just going to get tri-folded underneath and then stitched closed like so. I'm going to disassemble this. There's a little bit of corrosion. This thing has been sitting around for quite a while, so I'm going to disassemble it, take all the pieces apart, and hit it with some Scotch-Brite to get rid of some of that surface corrosion. Which hopefully this thing comes apart easily. There we go. Perfect. Now I can just go hit this flat spot with some Scotch-Brite and clean it up. It's a little bit better. There's still a little bit of corrosion on there, but I'm not terribly worried about it. This is not a load-bearing part of the seatbelt. It's just a friction adapter, so that should do fine. Now it should loop through here the correct way. Yes. Now I want to shorten this distance, so put this back together. That should just slide back on there. All right, just like that's all mocked up, glued together. We're gonna put a stitch here and then stitch all this closed. So I also figured it'd be nice to put a little pull strap on here, so when you tighten it down, there's something to grab onto. So got some of this purple webbing. I'm just gonna build a simple little handle so it'll have a loop to grab onto. Well, I just finished the seatbelt. I kind of got tired of filming all the sewing and everything. I had to run back and forth to Petco 4 different times because I kept buying the wrong size harness. But finally I got the right size harness, and we'll start here. So basically everything on the harness is the exact same as it was when I bought it. The only thing is I stitch picked this top handle off and inserted the seatbelt buckle, which is now sewn down right here also so that it can't slip down or up. So it's fixed in position here while still having access to this handle while we're out on the airport if I need to grab onto them or something. That's still accessible. And then I was able to just stitch it back down here. So that is nice and secure. That is not going anywhere. That is far stronger than it was when I bought it. So that's upgraded, looks nice. It has some nice metal hardware on it also, so I don't have to worry about plastic buckles breaking. So all in all, this harness is gonna be great. Now, I'm actually really proud of how this turned out. I am no rigger. I have a little bit of sewing experience. I've done my own line sets a handful of times, but other than that, this was my first sewing project. I didn't do all the stitches. You can see this big stitch right here that looks really nice and structural. That's not my stitch, that is Kazu's stitch, which I'm glad he did that for me. Let me jump into the airplane and I'll show you how this attaches to the seatbelt system. I don't have Kepler here right now. I'll bring him here another day. It is nuking wind outside. You probably can't hear it in here. It's nice and sheltered, but it's probably 40 mile an hour of wind. But at least the wind brought the warm temperatures. It's like 75 degrees, so that is glorious. Let's jump to the other side of the plane and we'll hook this thing up. So just like a normal seat belt, so the bottom loop of the harness that I sewed on here will just go straight through the normal seat belt, and then that seat belt will just clip to itself and tighten it down so it doesn't have much freedom of movement there. And so now this thing is just hard tethered to here, and then Kepler will be in the harness and you can just clip him straight in and cinch this thing down as much as you need to keep him back away from the controls and away from the rudder pedals. I think that's going to work pretty great. This is rendition number 1. If I need to, I'll make some adjustments. The fun part of making all this stuff is if anything isn't to my liking, I can just take it apart and redo it. So for version 1, without having actually tested it, I'm pretty happy with that. I think that that's going to work out great. I think the range of motion on how much I can tighten this will also be really good. So during important phases of flight, like takeoff and landing, I can really make it so he's restricted and won't get in the way of the yoke. But then once we're in cruise and he's a bit more comfortable, I can always loosen it up just a little bit, give him a little bit more freedom to move around so he doesn't feel so trapped. If this doesn't seem to work out, my next option is, instead of hooking it to this seat belt here, is maybe making a little bit longer of a strap here and having it go over top of the seat like this, so it attaches behind the seat, because then I will get a lot more restriction if I need to, and it's also not going to be pulling his back down because it's pulling tension down this way. It'll be pulling tension back, so he can sit a little bit more comfortably potentially. The only problem with this is I need to figure out somewhere to attach this loop behind the seat, which at this point I'm not sure how I would do. This plane doesn't have shoulder harnesses like most airplanes. I just haven't done the STC to install them yet, which I really want to do because having shoulder harnesses is obviously proven to make it way more safe in the case of a crash, to not just be held in by a waist or a lap belt. So eventually I will get those put in, then it'll be nice and easy to just clip this up to the inertial reel that's hooked into the ceiling. But for now, there's not much back there that I could hook this to, but I think this is going to work out great, just having it clipped in here to just the passenger seat belt. All in all, I'm pretty impressed. I'm pretty excited to test this thing out. We'll have to wait till the wind dies down a little bit and wait till this storm system passes through. And I'm also waiting on some ear muffs for him, and then we'll be ready to go. I have some camping stuff on the way. And I think once this storm system rolls through, we're supposed to get warmer weather, I think, for the rest of the summer. So we'll cross our fingers on that and hope that we can get out camping sooner rather than later. Landed back here at Sylvania, and as soon as I landed, I got a call from the owner or manager from Camp Lake. His name is Elliot, and he gave us the go-ahead to go camp there. I'm gonna grill up some food and just enjoy the night. A little bit of a different video this week. Not as much skydiving or aviation in it, but we'll get right back to it next week. So thanks for watching. If you haven't, subscribe, and I'll see you next Wednesday.
You got me exclusive. I'm so high, up and lucid. You take me to a safe place. We said